Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Soccer Sharps, a soccer betting podcast. Jordan, we're here to break down match day 3 of the Club World Cup and recap our match day 2. It's been a really fun tournament so far. We got one more round of group games before we head into the knockouts, which should be a lot of fun. If you guys are new to the show, please jump in, hit subscribe, hit the like button wherever you're watching this, wherever you're listening to this. We would love you guys to check out our next shows as we go forward, continuing to cap this tournament because there's a lot of money to be made. Our last guest on the show, Nick Diani, just hit a plus 300 banger on the last day of games here. So we got a lot more bets to come for you guys. We'll be giving out a bunch of official plays at the end of this thing, as we always do. But before we dive into that stuff, Jordan, how you doing on this Sunday evening?
Well, Dev, I'm a little salty and a little embarrassed, a little ashamed, I have to say. I had a terrible match day 2 in terms of my bets for the show. The only thing I can say is, we're sharp in other ways. Besides the plays we give out, we know when to bring on guests who might have fire plays to give out to help the show's overall record. It was a good thing that we brought on Nick Diani for match day 2 because he helped us to have a winning show despite my dog shit plays as I went 2-6. And we'll take a look at those results there, Dev, because, hey, you were no slouch either in match day 2. You crushed it too, just with fewer plays than Nick had.
Yeah, let's throw up our results from that last match day 2. We've got them up on the screen here. I went 4-1, a plus 2.8 units on that one. Jord with a 2-5, minus 2.5 units, not the best. And then Nick carrying us here, 6-2, plus 6.4 units. Again, 3 of those units coming off one play, getting the Salzburg and al-hilal outright draw at plus 300. Really nicely done. We are still plus money for the tournament as a whole and for match day 2 as a whole. Thanks for carrying us with that stuff, Nick. We appreciate it. But look, George, aside from wanting to gloat about my record there and kind of shit on you, it's been a really fun tournament. What are your thoughts as we go through this second round of games here? Anything stand out to you?
Well, just looking at that results card, I just want to say I'm sorry for deleting your success there. You went plus 2.82 and I was minus 2.55, so it pretty much deleted all your hard work there and then Nick making up the difference. So apologies for that, bro. Look, I'm loving this tournament, okay? You know what? I was wondering the other day, if this thing continues with these clubs taking it seriously and FIFA is successful in making this happen every 4 years, is there a chance that this surpasses the World Cup? And the reason I ask that is because I think most people would agree that club soccer is better than national team soccer, right? And mainly just because the clubs are with each other all the time, they're playing constantly, they're with their coach much more, they're understanding the tactics, they're with each other day in, day out. Whereas with international teams, it's very sporadic and they have very little time to work together. There's not as much chemistry. So if this thing took off and if they continue to take it as seriously as they are in this iteration, if this thing happens with younger generations growing up, are they going to like this better than the World Cup? I mean, you'll never be able to erase the nationalism and patriotism that comes with the World Cup, but maybe we don't need that anyway. Do we not? Do we want that? Maybe it's better to just have club tribalism over nationalism in the first place. I don't know. Just a curious thing to wonder about, right? Because the way this thing is going, I'm loving this tournament, Dev. I guess that's my main takeaway, and I just wonder about the potential for this going forward. Your thoughts?
I'm totally with you in terms of the quality of play. That club football is just better product on the field. It's really, really fun to watch. Just because of exactly what you said. They have more time to instill tactics. They have more times to play together. But there's something about having that national team shirt on, right, with that nation's badge and no sponsor on the front, and it just brings something else out of the people. And I'm not sure you're ever going to quite replace that, but I do love this tournament, Jordan. I'll tell you though, I'm frankly exhausted. There's too many matches. There's too much going on. But we're going to dive into this match day 3 here right now, and we've got some friends in the chat. If you're in here, hop in, tell us your plays, tell us your thoughts on this tournament as a whole. Victor Sava says, "Vamos Mexico." And I'll tell you,
they're playing right now, and I have a bet on them. It's still 0-0. I need Mexico to win that with under 4.5. Not worried about the 4.5, Dev, but can Mexico win it, please? My guy,
well,
Edson Alvarez. Let's go.
The Gold Cup, right? It's a whole different thing. We're not even
Whole
covering it.
different
There's
thing.
too many things going on. But I will say I'm supporting Mexico with my Modelo with tahini filled in my glass here. So that's
Let's
my
go.
contribution.
Hell yeah. And pull up,
But-
let's pull up this one from the chat here. Up, Bob DeVita saying the only problem is a lot of this year's best teams were left out. Barca, Liverpool, dare I say Arsenal, the best second place team in the EPL. Yeah, the thing with that is, though, it's based on, they have to organize the tournament ahead of time, so they do have to take teams that were successful a little bit before. But you're right, if they could find a way to like get more current successful teams in, it could be awesome, even if it's like 2 years out as opposed to 4 years out. Maybe some brainstorming there, but I agree, that could be really cool. If that were to happen, I think it could really rival the World Cup. Maybe not replace it, but rival it.
Yeah, well, that will lay in the future. And in terms of future, we're looking ahead to this week, Jordan, because we've got, I think we're breaking down 6 of the matches. A lot of these are dead rubbers. A lot of them have already been decided, so we don't have plays for them. But let's go ahead and start with tomorrow's matches. And it's Internacional de Football Club Miami against Palmeiras. And this one sees Inter Miami as quarter goal underdogs, and the total is set at a low 2, a flat 2 here. Jordan, Palmeiras are already through, I believe. I need to look at the numbers exactly. And Inter Miami, a draw suits both of these teams. If they do draw this match, they both go through to the next round. It would be nice to see Inter Miami get through, I think, just to have an MLS team in there, to have the Messi star power. We saw it on display when he had that incredible free kick that won them their last game. But Jordan, what do you think about this match? This one kicking off in Miami Gardens. Home game for Miami, or will there be more Palmeiras fans in the stands?
Miami Gardens. I like the sound of that, Dev. Is that I thought it was at the
baby.
Hard
Rock
Rock?
Hard.
Oh,
The
they call
Rock
it
Hard.
They call it they call it Miami Gardens. Is that a thing? I'm pulling this up on my phone here because I wanted to address what you just said about the standings of the group. Bear with me for 1 second here. I've got it. So yeah, actually, these two teams tied on 4 points apiece. Palmeiras 2 goals for, 0 against, and Inter Miami 2 goals for, 1 against. So slightly better there for Palmeiras. Look, you got to think both of these teams go through, right? Because Porto and Al-Ahly only on 1 point each. Even if they were to win, they would tie these teams. So a draw sends both of these teams through. And that's kind of where I started my handicap for this one. A draw gets both teams through. I've talked on the show already about how I think the tournament as a whole benefits from Messi continuing on as long as possible. This is a home game for Inter Miami. They looked really good against Porto. Messi free kick aside, I thought they played pretty well. And certainly in the second half of their first match against Al-Ahly, when they were under the cosh in the first half, absolutely. But in the second half, they sorted it out. Mascherano made changes. And since then, from that second half onward into the second game where they looked good against Porto, I think they've been playing better. And, you know, I joke about how there's the Infantino conspiracy to keep Messi going as long as possible, but I'm going to bring that in on my side. I already think that a draw is the baseline here. Both teams go through with a draw. I'm going to bring the draw on side and double down on the fact that I think Inter Miami advance from this group. So I'm going to take it where it's lined here, Dev. Inter Miami plus a quarter of a goal here. I get the Inter Miami win. I get a half cash on the draw. That's fair enough for me at plus money at plus 105.
Yeah, Jordan, I elected to stay off of this one. I was really eyeballing the outright draw here, but at plus 137, I don't think that's tremendous value. I'd like a better price on that. So I ended up just staying away here. I think Palmeiras is the better team. I think they'll have really great support in Miami, as they've had, all of the Brazilian teams have had this whole tournament. But you worry about the Messi effect. And I do think the Brazilian players hate Messi a little bit. And I think they're going to be gunning for him in this one. So I could see them wanting to win this, but it's also very risky. Because even if, well, I got to do a lot of math here, because the tiebreaker in this tournament is not goal differential. The first tiebreaker is actually head-to-head.
Head-to-head, yeah.
So if Porto, let's assume Porto beats al-Ahly, so they'll be on 4 points. If Palmeiras loses, then it'll go to goal differential because they drew Porto on that first match day 0-0. If Palmeiras wins, Inter Miami already beat Porto, so they're through. So Inter Miami is actually fine either way here, right? They can do anything. This game is a dead rubber for them.
Unless if al-Ahly were to beat Porto and Inter Miami
and then
lost,
it would come down to goal differential for the two of them.
Because al-Ahly and Inter Miami.
So there's a lot of permutations here. So you can't mess around. You got to go out there and win the game, or at least not lose it. So that's why that draw, I think you're getting at that price. It's probably pretty likely. I think these teams come out, a little gentleman's agreement, give a handshake there, and say, look, let's just get out of here, and we'll both advance. Palmeiras will top the group, which was one of my future bets. If you were on that, hope you listened to our future show. That was, I think, plus 160-ish. Palmeiras to top this group, so that's looking pretty good right now. But Jordan, like you said, like as we're both saying, the draw seems fairly likely here. You're getting part of the draw with that Inter Miami plus a quarter of a goal here. So moving on, let's go to the next game. This one also on Sunday, but from a different group. It's Seattle Sounders against Paris Saint-Germain. This one sees Seattle Sounders, even though they're playing in Seattle here, as plus two full goal underdogs, and the total is set at 3.25. And before we dive into this one, Jordan, I see you pumping your fist over there. I think Mexico just scored.
They absolutely did, Dev. Victor Sabas giving us the breaking news here with the Mexico and Santiago Jimenez scoring in the 90th minute. You just love the game of soccer, huh? Or as Victor calls it here, football is so great. Football is live. So where do we go here with Seattle Sounders hosting PSG and literally hosting, right? This is going to be played in Seattle, home game.
That's right.
Boy, you know what's funny about the Seattle Sounders?
What's funny about them, Jordan?
Well, they've lost both of their games, right?
Yeah.
And been oddly competitive. Would it surprise you to hear that they outshot both Atleti and Botafogo? And in fact, had way more shots than Botafogo. They had 23 shots against Botafogo. I was stunned when I saw that because it didn't feel like it watching the game. But shots don't win games. And I just thought it was an interesting stat. You usually don't see that when a team's losing, especially against higher caliber teams. So just an interesting stat there. I thought it was kind of a fun nugget. PSG have to win this game, Dev. They have to come out emphatically. They are kind of the butt of a lot of jokes this week because they lost to Botafogo. But look, they dominated. We've seen this happen with PSG, right? Yeah, I remembered, I was thinking about it during the game when they played against Botafogo. The Liverpool game, leg one in Paris against Liverpool, where they absolutely dominated Liverpool throughout, lost it 1-0. Different set of circumstances. They lost that one late, and it was more about just tons of missed chances, whereas this one against Botafogo, they weren't quite able to create those chances that they so desperately needed. Look, they just have to come in here, take care of business against Seattle Sounders, which everyone else in the group has been able to do, so you have to like them to do that. I elected to stay off of this one because the spreads are big, and, you know, could this just be another tidy 2-0 for Paris, 1-0, something like that? Decided to stay off it, was looking at maybe PSG shots props. Do they finally get more shots than Seattle Sounders did? But just elected to stay off. There were other things I liked better in Matchday 3.
Well, what's interesting about this group is you have Botafogo on top here with 6 points. PSG and Atleti tied on 3 points. Seattle was 0. That PSG game, look, if you listen to our last show on round 2, we had our guest Nick Diani say, look, there's no value on taking PSG -2 against Botafogo. He's like, it's just not a smart bet. And I said, no, I'm taking it anyway because I think this PSG team's so good. Well, lost. That was my one losing play of last week. And it wasn't close. Botafogo, Luis Enrique came out after the game and said that's the best defense that we've played this whole season, including their Champions League run. And you could see it. They actually may have gotten more shots up, but they weren't quality shots, right? Their XG was low. Botafogo had a game plan and they executed it perfectly. They're also playing. This sounds so almost reductive, but it's like the South American Brazilian style. It's really intense. It's really high pressure, intensity. These guys don't stop hustling. And look, they've started their season late, right? So they're only a third of the way through the season. I think some of these teams are in really good form. We're going to see that as we continue this tournament. But I'm doing it again, Jord. I'm playing it again. You're telling me you got the same line here for Seattle Sounders as Botafogo? What are we doing? Yeah, I'm taking Paris -2. I'm hoping Luis Enrique realizes the moment here and doesn't mess around and substitute 2 of his best 3 players out of that midfield, because I want that midfield 3 of Fabian Ruiz, Joao Neves, Vitinha. Vitinha started against Botafogo. The other 2 guys came off the bench. We can't have that. Same with who's the left back who's incredible?
Nuno Mendes.
Mendes. That guy's got to start the game. Just start your strongest lineup, Luis Enrique. Don't mess around here. Take care of business. They should run away with this. Okay, Seattle Sounders is not ready for the way this Paris team plays. And yes, they got a goal against Botafogo. Botafogo went up 2-0 and then shut the shop down. Said we're just going to defend. That's why Seattle got so many shots up. So I'm taking Paris again. Maybe this is stupid. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again, baby. Let's take that -2 at -114. Nick's probably shaking his head somewhere, but that's what I'm going with in this one.
I love it, Dev. And look, just maybe a little feather in your cap here. Reports suggest that Dembele has participated in full training last couple of days. Can we see his first start of the tournament? Little X factor there from the main man.
Yeah, they could use him because he's probably their most dangerous creator. Best striking option up top, even though they play that sort of fluid front 3. And I just want to say before we move on to our next game here, we got about 50 of you guys watching this thing live. Everybody throws a like on the video right now. We'd appreciate it. It would help our show out a lot. Let us grow. Let us keep giving you guys great picks and giving you guys ways to make money on this really fun tournament. But let's move on to Wednesday's matchups, Jordan. We're taking a look at Benfica against Bayern Munich. This one sees Bayern as half-a-goal favorites, and the total is set at 2.5. It's a Champions League tie, Jordan. We got all Euro matchup here and everything to play for. These two teams. Looks like Bayern is through automatically here. Benfica still has to do some work. It's going to come down to goal differential against Boca Juniors, who are playing Auckland City, who are just everybody's punching bag at the moment. So it'll come down to goal differential between those two. Assuming Benfica don't win outright this game. But, Jordan, what do you think about this matchup here with the 2 European powerhouses?
Well, Dev, I will get to the European powerhouses, but as Bob's asking in the chat, they took the goal away? They did. They took away Santiago Jimenez's goal. 0-0. It ends with Mexico.
Oh, no.
Absolute tragedy.
No.
Crushing stuff.
And VAR now.
And VAR now. Absolutely, Dev. But look, at this match, I'm a little nervous here, Dev, because I'm looking at these lines we're looking at on the screen here. Over 2.5. I couldn't believe that this game was lined at 2.5 on the total. Over 2.5 -108, under 2.5 -108. You kidding me? I don't get it. I get that Bayern are through. But look, we've heard Harry Kane talk about this tournament. We know he wants the accolades. This guy's thirsty for trophies. This guy wants to win golden boots. Olise's in the form of his life, looking like a potential player of the tournament, let alone golden boot winner. I think those guys are still out here for this. And, you know, they at least get some time. And even if they're not, there are plenty of cookers on this Bayern team. And Benfica no slouches either. And as you said, they may have a little work to do here. I just don't see, with the way these teams play, how there aren't goals in this game, especially if Bayern are a little more relaxed about how the result might go. I just can't look a gift horse in the mouth here, Dev. Over 2.5 -108. I mean, that's a must play for me here. I'm just really, the only thing that puts me off is that I don't understand the lines and I'm a little frightened that I'm missing something, but I actually decided to double dip on this one. Not only do I want to take over 2.5 in the match, I'm looking at that Bayern Munich team total over 1.5 because of what I just said about these players and what their motivations are. And I want to take that too, Dev, coming in at minus 120. That way, if it's a 2-0 Bayern, at least I cash something. But I feel like Bayern scoring twice, maybe 3 times. I could see Benfica getting on the score sheet. Come on, they have much more attack, or much more quality attack, in my opinion, than Boca Juniors, who were able to score despite being completely up against it, especially that first half. So, yeah, I think this is a relaxed game for Bayern. I think they just focus on going forward, maybe work a few new guys into the starting lineup, but yeah, it's just hard to... When you see over a 2.5 line in a Bayern Munich game, I don't care what's on the line, you got to take it.
Yeah, it's insane. It's lined here, honestly. If this was a Champions League match, this would be 3.5. Right? Yeah. Now, these two teams met in the Champions League this past season. Of course, that was a 1-0 Bayern victory. So take that with it what you will. Okay, so these teams have met one another, but this is a different situation. This is a dead rubber for Bayern. They don't care. They're through. They're top in the group. Unless they lose, let me just double check that. No, actually, yeah, if they lose outright, then Benfica will top the group. Benfica just needs a point here. They just need anything out of this game, and they're assured to go through. Goal differential won't matter. Do the bookies not understand what Bayern Munich is? They're a machine. They'll never stop. They'll always keep going forward. They'll always keep shooting. They'll always keep scoring goals. I expect both teams scoring and the over 2.5 here because I see it coming at both ends. I actually think this game will be a lot of fun, though it is being played in Charlotte, North Carolina at a 3 p.m. local time kickoff. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. We saw the Dortmund players having to go inside the locker room to watch the substitutes watching from the locker room when it was like 87 Fahrenheit. Did you see that in their game?
I saw it. And that is absolutely pathetic. I loved hearing Steve McManaman later on. He was on the River Plate game and he was asked about it. He was like, "What would you have done, Steve?" And he was like, "If that was with my teammates, I would have absolutely lost it. It's disgraceful." And I'm like, "Yeah, stick the boot in, Steve. Come on."
Yeah,
soft. I mean, you're not playing. Your teammates are out there running around in that heat. You're sitting in a dugout with the overhang. Absolutely pathetic. But Dev, you're right. This Bayern team, they're not like Dortmund. They're going to keep pushing. They're going to keep scoring unless Jordan needs them to have an over 3.5 against Boca Juniors. Then they're not going to do it.
Well, even that one saw a 2-1. So again, this 2.5 at minus 108 seems crazy. The both teams to score, yes, is minus 143. So what am I missing here? Each team gets on the score sheet. You don't think there's going to be at least one more goal? And it could come from either end. Benfica scored 84 goals out of 34 matches in their domestic league this season. They've got goals in them too. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it at least a 2-1 here. So I love getting that 2.5, Jordan. I think that's tremendous value. Even that team total, minus 120. You could even look at the Benfica team total at plus 225. You want to have a dart throw on something with some nice plus money. That's not a bad shout either. But yeah, for me, it's goals here. You take a look at some streaks. Bayern Munich have seen over 2.5 goals in 9 of their last 10 competitive matches. Okay. 9 of the last 10. Those are odds I'm willing to take. Both teams have scored in 5 of the last 6 Benfica matches. So yeah, give me goals here every direction. This might be a ladder play. Might bring out the ladder here, George. Start stacking them up over 2.5, over 3.5. Why not? Get some nice plus money on that. If this thing does uncork and become a lot of fun, I'm sure we'll see some rotation, but yeah, the 2.5 is just too good a number. Yeah. So let's move on, George, to our next round, next group here, and it's Internazionale Milano against River Plate, the boys from Argentina. And this one sees Internazionale Milano as a half a goal favorite. Total is set at 2.5. Jordan, Inter came out with that very lucky, I would say, last-second victory. 2-1 over the Red Diamonds of Japan. And River Plate had a slugfest, I guess you'd call it, 0-0 against Monterrey in Pasadena. I was all over that one, baby. Under 2.25. Easy money. There was nobody looking to score goals in that game. That was a lot of fun to watch if you're into that sort of, if you're like a UFC fan, I guess, not as much a football fan. But what do you think about this matchup here, Jordan, with, once again, everything to play for in this group?
Well, Dev, that slugfest that you mentioned, that match between Monterrey and River Plate, is the first part of my handicap here. And because it was such a slugfest, because there were so many fouls, so many yellow cards given, combined with the yellows that River Plate saw in their first match, River Plate's entire midfield three is suspended for this match. They're starting midfield three. So they have to replace their entire midfield. And I think that's going to be a problem against an Inter team who still need to show something. Yes, they got the win in match day 2, but boy, did they leave it late. Kind of crushing for Urawa Red Diamonds to concede that second goal in stoppage time to Inter. But look, Inter were knocking on the door, man. They were just banging on that door, and they finally got the reward. But still, I don't think they've really convinced many people. I don't think Christian Kivu has convinced many people yet. I think they need kind of a statement win here. And that combined with the heart of River Plate's midfield being ripped out of this match makes me think, let's just take Inter on the money line here. It's a playable price, minus 112. I think they can do it. I think they're the superior team. They have the quality. They looked a little bit better in the second match, despite conceding that goal. That was a little bit unlucky against the run of play. So that, for me, Dev, is the play here. Inter on the money line at minus 112.
And Jordan, I'm right there with you. I'm taking it too. And again, I'm playing it on the money line. If you look at our graphic on the card here, you can see the Asian handicap of minus a half a goal. It's minus 108. But the money line is minus 112. So you're paying 4 cents here. But if you take that money line, depending what book you're on, you get the automatic early payout if Inter go up by 2 goals. I can't tell you how many times that has saved me. So be sure to know what you're betting, know which book you're on there. It's really important to pay attention to that stuff. All that being said, I think Inter getting the win against Red Diamonds was huge for them. They needed something big. They had a comeback win against the odds at the end of the game. It was exactly the kind of momentum shifter that they need going forward in this tournament. They just needed a win. They needed a win with a statement. And I think that's going to give them a lot of momentum. And you took the words out of my mouth with the injuries, or rather suspensions, for River Plate in the center of that midfield, because then they brought in Kevin Castaño, right, the Colombian international, and then he gets red carded. So he's gone. Or maybe it was accumulation of yellows. Either way, he's suspended. Everybody's suspended. So they've got a whole second line here in their midfield. I think it's going to be a long day at the office. They're going to be pinned in. Inter's going to be knocking on the door, and they just got to get a win here, and they top the group. And then Christian Kivu can turn around and say, what were you worried about? Because they'll advance here. And then it'll depend. You know, River Plate needs just a point here that'll suit them, it would seem, to get through, and then it'll come down to goal differential with Monterrey. Yeah, so a lot of interesting stuff in this group, actually. If these two teams do draw, Monterrey beats the Red Diamonds, everybody's tied on points. That's gonna be a tough one.
Huge permutations there, Dev. Absolutely. And
yeah.
Look, quite a few people in with us here. Guys, get in the chat. Tell us what you're betting on these games, because I want to know. Are we calling this wrong? Do you see value other ways? Happy to see what your plays are, and we'll get those up on the screen and read them out for the podcast version.
Absolutely, especially when we're in agreement, Jordan. I want to hear the dissenting opinions. Can River Plate pull this off? Are we crazy here? Is getting that plus a half a goal, getting the draw or the River Plate win the better option here? I don't know. You and I are in agreement, though. I like this Inter Milan on the money line. Just seems like too good a value to pass up, Jordan. We have seen no losses for River Plate in their last 3 matches across all comps. Can they continue that streak? We shall see. Let's move on, Jord. We've got another really fun matchup here with 2 European giants, and it is Juventus against Manchester City. This one, Juventus plus a half a goal, underdogs, and the total is set at 2.5. I got to take a look here, Jord, because these games just wrapped up before we're recording this, to see exactly the permutations here of the group winners. These two teams, Juventus and City, perfect 2 for 2, each of them on 6 points, but Juventus holding the greater goal scoring differential, it looks like, because they both have an 8 goal differential, but Juventus has scored 9 goals. So I think that puts them on top here. But Jordan, what do you think about this matchup with these two teams that should be pretty familiar with each other?
Well, Dev, I'll get right into that after I say that LR in the chat says, I hope Inter wins on the money line. Just wanted to reward that after we asked for people to give their comments in the chat. So we're
riding with you, LR. Riding with you.
Oh, and LR back again with Juventus City game should be fun. Hopefully Man City will win this, thinking maybe 3-1. And you know what, LR, that's what I'm thinking too here. Look, we just saw Man City come off of an absolute drubbing against al-Ain. And look, Juventus crushed them too, but City had a ton of rotation. Very interesting lineup. Some guys getting their debut, a lot of rotation, Pep making a ton of subs. Haaland didn't have a huge impact apart from scoring the penalty. Boy, did he have chances, though. Of course he had chances because I had him to score more than one goal. But he only got the penalty. But look, I think Juventus, Dev, they've looked good in this tournament, but who have they played? They've come up against al-Ain. They've come up against WAC Casablanca. I can't judge them on that. I'm just going to kind of harken back to the Juventus we saw throughout the season here. And I just think this matchup, regardless of the ups and downs City have gone throughout the season, I think they're locked in here. They brought in a lot of talent. They're getting players back in form. Gundogan was sensational tonight. Foden was sensational in the first game. You know, some of the stalwarts coming back into the fray here. Rodri getting more minutes. It's pretty imperious. And these new guys are hitting the ground running too. Aiton Nori looked incredible today. Ryan Cherky got his first goal for the club. Huge stuff here, Dev. I think there's a talent disparity here, and I think Man City want to dominate this tournament. I'm going to take them to get 2 goals in this match. You could take them on the money line. Maybe they go up 2-0, and if you're on a certain book, you cash. But I'm just going to take them to score twice because I definitely think Juventus can score against City. They have looked suspect at the back. There were chances even today for al-Ain. If they had a little bit more quality, they may have put those chances away. And Juventus certainly in good goal-scoring form. Ken Yildiz is out of his mind right now. Kolo Muani, plenty of guys who can hurt you, right? So
don't forget the American Weston McKennie wearing the captain's armband.
Couple of Americans. They visited the White House through much
bizarre
not fanfare. Scenes. Yeah, bizarre scenes. Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, I like City to score twice here at -120. I think that's a great price. And, you know, you don't need them to win the match here. If Juventus get on the score sheet as well, you're not as worried about it. So, yeah, that's going to be my play here. Man City to score twice, -120.
Yeah, I don't hate it, Jord. You know, these teams are both through here. This is a complete dead rubber unless they really care about who wins the group, right? I'm sure they get big bonuses for that, right? They get like $3 million for every match they win. Means a lot more to Juventus than to an actual petro state, state-backed club like Manchester City. But Jord, these two teams met in the Champions League this season in December. 2-0 Juventus victory in that one, and that was at Juventus, so obviously they had an advantage in that one. I elected to stay off of this one. I think there's value on Juventus getting the double chance here, plus a half a goal at even money. I think there's value there. I think you could look at the total, not necessarily the team total, but just the game total over 2.5. It looks playable to me. I think this could come at goals at both ends here. I just can't trust Pep Guardiola. He's starting a completely rotated team. I think there's only 2 guys that started the last match that started this one. He's got a kid out there, Claudio Echeverri, who scored an amazing free kick. I've never heard of this player before. And I follow this team. We follow the EPL. I've never heard of this guy. We know about all their big signings, right? Nico Gonzalez, we talked about a lot this season. Ryan Cherky scored in this game. They brought in all these new players, and they're still bringing in guys I've never even heard of. I don't know what Pep's going to do. I can't trust him. I can't bet on this team. It's just too variant for me, and it freaks me out. So I'm staying off it. But I wish you luck. I wish you luck with that team total. I think this could be a fun one. I think there could be goals in this because both teams know that they're through. So let's go out there and have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely, Dev.
Well, let's move on to our final match we're going to cover here. And I imagine this is where our viewership will drop off because it's WAC Casablanca against al-Ain FC. This one's listed as a pick with all the juice on al-Ain to, I guess, win this one. And the total is set at 2.5. Jord, I'm going to let you take this away because I'm going to be honest, both these teams have lost both of their games. Casablanca's had some really great support, but otherwise I'm not really sure what you're seeing here. Tell me what you're seeing.
I think that Al Ain are the second worst team in the tournament. That's what I'm seeing, and I can't understand why they're slightly favored here. Yes, it's a pick 'em, but if you look at the juice on the money lines, they are technically the favorite, and I just think that's wrong. I think it should be reversed. WAC Casablanca have actually showed something. They've showed fight in both of their matches. They've gotten on the score sheet. You know, I just feel like with the support they have, obviously both teams are out, right? They're not going anywhere. So I think they just kind of owe it to their fans. They enjoy the fact that they're here. I think in the region of North Africa, you see a lot of quality soccer, certainly in the national teams. And I just kind of feel like since I'm bringing the draw inside and I can at least push out with the pick, I think I'm getting the better team here at the better price on the pick market there. Slight plus money on the Asian handicap at 0.0, which is the same as the pick'em, draw no bet. So that's where I elected to go. I just think that these numbers are wrong. I've seen a little bit of fight from WAC that I haven't seen from Al Ain, and that's basically the extent of my handicap. You might say to yourself, well, this is insane that this guy's picking this game after he had a really rough round two. He's decided to add this to his card. Look, I'm value hunting here, and I just think this line is wrong, and I'm willing to take a stab. So WAC Casablanca on the pick market plus 105.
Yeah, it's not a bad shot. At least they've scored, right? They scored once against Juventus, and they held Man City to only 2 goals. Al Ain gave up 5 to Juventus and 6 to Man City while failing to get on the score sheet. So Casablanca's put up a little bit of a fight. We've seen an amazing home support for them. Great traveling fans for the team from Morocco. But look, why get involved in this? That's my thinking. I hear where you're at, though, with the value there on the pick market and the plus 105. But, Jordan, that's going to wrap it up for all the games that we are covering this week. So before we get out of here, I think there's something we got to do.
We do indeed, Dev, and there's no surprise to me at all that we don't see the chat weighing in with their bets for Casablanca versus Al Ain. That's no surprise, but look, it's one thing to talk about these matches, and it's quite another to put our money where our mouths are and pay the bookie.
Chuck, I'm going to tell you something. You have that fucking 200 in my hands tomorrow. If you ain't got the 200 in my fucking hands tomorrow, I'll break every fucking bone in your body.
Well, Jord, let's throw up our official plays on the screen here, and I'll read off mine, and then I'll let you go here. I've got Paris Saint-Germain, -2 on the Asian handicap at -114 against Seattle Sounders. Call me crazy for betting this again, but I'm just hoping Luis Enrique does the right thing here and plays all his guys, and I think they should steamroll that one. Benfica, Bayern Munich, over 2.5 goals. We're both on that one, -108. Just seems like tremendous value. I'm also hopping on your bet here. Bayern Munich team total over 1.5 at -120. Bayern's going to keep taking shots. They're going to keep trying to score goals no matter what. And then Internazionale Milano on the money line. We talked about that one previously in the episode, -112.
Yes, indeed, Dev. And so that means we have 2 units on 3 of these plays because we're each taking a stab at 3 of those, that being the Benfica Bayern over 2.5, Bayern Munich team total over 1.5, and Inter money line. Both of us on those 3 plays, so 2 units each. And then I've got a few outliers. I've got a little catch up to do, so I did a few extra plays here with Inter Miami plus 1/4 goal on the Asian handicap at plus 105. I've got WAC Casablanca, which might be a whack decision. We'll see. To cover on the pick market here, at least push out on the 0.0 Asian handicap, also at plus 105. And finally, Manchester City to score at least 2 goals against Juventus. Manchester City team total over 1.5 at -120.
And that's going to do it for us, Jord. Before we get out of here, those of you watching live on YouTube, on Twitch, on X or Twitter, please drop a like on this video. Goes a long way to helping us out. And please follow, subscribe, and check us out for our future episodes as we break down the round of 16 and going forward in this tournament, as well as next season, because it's going to be coming around the corner with European football kicking off in August. Jord, but before we get out of here, any last words for the people?
Just to echo what you said, Dev, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who is watching this or listening to this in the future. We really appreciate it. We're a new show. We're trying to get the word out. We're trying to grow this thing independent style. Check out our podcast network, the Hooligan Soccer Network, hooligan-soccer.com, all kinds of coverage of this tournament and beyond, all sorts of voices there. It's really worth checking out. And we appreciate you guys. Let's hope this round goes as well as it did for Dev in the last round and goes much better for me than it did in the last round. And by the way, we will have Nick Diani back at some point in this tournament. He'll join us again at some point in the knockouts, and hopefully he doesn't have to come on to help me out for having a rough show, but we'll see. Until then, people, we'll see you in a few days as we head into those knockout rounds. Let's make some money.
Let's make some money.
Martial.